Hey everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Checkpoint on Campus. Your host Norris Howard here, as always, joined by my partner in crime, Jacob Brothers, coming to us from Sandy, Las Vegas. Jakob, what's going on, my guy?
We have officially reached the point where we have perfect Vegas weather, so you should be jealous, and I'm doing great.
I'm not jealous because in 2 weeks it's gonna be hotter than any human being can tolerate in Las Vegas.
Better than snow.
Now, also on the show today, we're being joined by Michael Brooks, the Executive Director of NACE. Now, if you're unfamiliar with NACE, this is one of the largest organizations, nonprofit organizations, that helps organize esports. They put on tournaments. They help schools set up their programs. They advise on a multitude of things in college esports. So we're very happy to bring Michael onto the show with us today to have a really great conversation about where they're seeing the future of collegiate esports going. So Michael, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Jealous about the weather, by the way. It's cold over here.
Yeah, it'll be a brisk 70 degrees where I am today. But Michael, first and foremost, I want to ask, a lot of us in the collegiate esports scene know NACE. We've heard of NACE. NACE puts on a multitude of tournaments. Just talk to us a little bit about the progress that you guys have seen over the past year, especially over COVID, in terms of the growth of collegiate esports.
Yeah, thank you for that, and that was a great introduction for what NACE is. We do a lot for our institutions, for our students. We've been pretty insular, right, working within our member institutions and helping those programs out. COVID was definitely it was a hurdle just to get things transitioned so that we can continue doing the good work we're doing. So obviously we did a lot of in-person events, whether they're competition focused or professional development focused, or just evangelizing groups on what collegiate esports is, what this can mean for their sons or daughters or anything like that. Transitioning all of that almost all at the same time to an online only format was a bit of a challenge, but one that we got through very successfully. So we were faced with a ton of unknowns from our members. Are schools allowed to travel anymore? Or is the semester, this was last March 2020, right? We were wondering, are schools going to even finish out their semesters? Or are they going to close down, everyone goes home, and whatever the grade you have in your class now, that's the grade you walk out with? Like every single one of those questions, the answers that we were typically getting from our institutions was a big, we don't know either, right? Nobody's told us. We don't know what's going on. We just know that it's not safe to be on campus anymore. So we're trying to get students out of here. What we did is we basically ended our regular season competition across all the esports we were facilitating competition in. And we transitioned that into a Spring Cup format. So we didn't penalize schools if, based upon their own policies, they couldn't continue. But we still wanted to enable ways for schools that were able to keep going to participate and keep their teams together, keep engagement going. We call that our Spring Cups, and we basically transitioned. It was kind of nice. All the expenses we'd have with our in-person championships, things like that. We just moved it into scholarship prize pools for all of those cups. Then the summer occurred. Obviously, summer was a lot of planning for a completely online academic year for the 2020-2021 academic year. And that's why we've been progressing. Everything is fully online. And it was a growth year for us too. Surprisingly, everyone, I think outside of esports goes like, yeah, COVID was terrible for our business, for what we do, and I'm very cognizant of that. But esports, in our case, only accelerated. We onboarded more.
Yeah, I read a statistic that said about 70% of all college esports programs grew over the pandemic. And so that, is only testament to some of the hard work that a multitude of organizations, including NACE, has put in over the pandemic. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do want to get to another question here.
Sure.
Is that talking about that back end and that planning phase, in terms of helping the schools move forward and helping the schools, maybe some of them who hadn't quite got their program off the ground yet, all the way up to the schools that are performing well in multiple esports. Did you guys see interest grow from the schools you were already talking to? Did certain schools want to accelerate their plans? How did that look for NACE?
Yeah, well, I mean, we draw upon the unique strengths of all of our member institutions. And you have to remember, NACE, as an association, we encompass the majority in North America of all varsity esport programs. So we've got very new programs, and that's certainly the majority because we keep like basically doubling in size every year. But we've got some of the top performing schools in the country as NACE members as well, like Harrisburg University, for example. And we're able to draw across all of that to show very clearly successful ways the school should start an esports program, and you know, what are the evolutionary steps they need to take to mature their program to a very competitive and high performing one. That's been incredibly helpful for us, educating administrators, making sure that they know what they're talking about, what they're looking at, what they need to start, because they have to carry that conversation on to other peer administrators, right? Their vice provost, their chancellor, their president, the board of trustees. A lot of things have to get unlocked. For us, growth has been tremendous, and we saw, I think, in part, one, administrators having a little bit more time and certainly more urgency around figuring out ways to engage their student body, and esports being able to continue wholly online is certainly an answer to that, to a degree. It's not the silver bullet, but yeah, growth has been fantastic.
So since the growth has been going so well with everything online, do you think as the global situation improves that you're still going to keep like the majority of your efforts on online, or as things progress, do you think it's going to be more in-person events?
We're definitely looking forward to getting back to in-person events. Right now, our strategic planning is focused for this next coming academic year is to move back to in-person events. But we are a much bigger organization than we were pre-COVID. Not just a number of institutions who are members, but numbers of students. What games we have licenses to run competition in has dramatically increased as well. Carrying all that forward, I think in reality, you're going to see a hybrid model. You're going to see some, especially esports that we provide, will still be an online-only format, but the vast majority of them are going to go back to this online format with in-person championships.
Right. So, I want to ask a little bit of a tough question, Mike, because there's a lot of, potential employees, potential coaches out there that are growing a little bit frustrated with some of the collegiate standards that are out there. And I'm thinking of one tweet in particular that said, master's degree and all these other requirements, saying that they're getting these requirements from certain organizations. They didn't name them, but it's not often we get somebody of your stature on the show. So I want to ask this question. When it comes to coaching and it comes to growing esports, I'm not seeing a lot of requirements that actually ask for how good a coach is at the game. But we are seeing requirements for things like, postgraduate degrees and other things like that. When you guys go in to talk to a new program or a chancellor that's looking to start a new program, how much are you guys talking about, the ability of the staff that they hire? Is that a part of the conversation at all, or is that something that's mostly coming from the universities themselves?
To a degree, we are sharing, but the information that we're sharing is, number of students compared to, the number of staff our institutions are showing. So all the information that we share with prospective institutions comes from existing institutions. We do annual program development surveys that creates, here's the average, here's the mean, here's the range for budgets, for game participation, student recruitment numbers, travel budgets. I mean, we try to hit everything at a very granular level so that even an administrator who doesn't know a lot about esports can just look at a piece of paper and see like, okay, conceptually, I get the pieces that are on the puzzle. We don't make recommendations, and I am familiar with those tweets that are out there. I want to be very clear. NACE has never, and NACE has not made recommendations to any institution on the type of person or the background and experience that person has when they're trying to staff their program. I think what you're seeing there is two things. One, institutions are trying to match esport coaches and director positions to their peers in the athletic side, right? So if you're looking for a coach, certainly you do want them. I understand this. You do want them to have a college degree, because what does a college and university do at the end of the day? They get students degrees, assuming they earn them, of course. And it doesn't look good for an esports program at the collegiate level to have staff who aren't a product of the higher education system, right? So that's a more of a philosophy thing from the institutional side, but I get that. Beyond that, though, like a master's degree, I don't know where that comes from. That's never come from NACE. I don't know who's saying that. I think that's a bit ridiculous, because if you think age-wise, it doesn't quite overlap with where the industry is. Just like, when you got your experience in esports would have been at that point in time when esports wasn't really a thing in North America.
Right.
So, I think the reason why sometimes orgs like NACE are looked at and like, why aren't you doing more about this? NACE is, and I can only speak for NACE, we've always been very cognizant of where our lane is, right? Our lane is to advise and support institutions. We do not dictate, especially staffing considerations to institutions. We consider that's their purview, right? Just like with Checkpoint, and this is not really a great example, but I don't go to you guys and say like, hey man, you should hire only these type of people, period. Or like, you would look at me like, why is that any of your business? Well, that's how we look at it. So we make recommendations, but it's up to the institution to see if they want to abide by those recommendations at all, right? Or take any part of it.
Yeah, and so very quickly, just to wrap up, we're running a little short on time. If you want to look at 2021 future cast date for the rest of the summer and into the fall semester, do you think we get back to live events, and what is the big thing you're looking for on the horizon for the rest of the year?
Yes, we're going to be back. In short, yes, we're going to be back to live events. I mean, that's exactly what we're planning. If I'm wrong, I got a lot more work. My team has got a lot more work to do to fix things, because that's what we're planning for. Additionally, what are things that we're looking at on the horizon? Look, I think this year has marked a lot of groups rethinking strategically what they're doing and how they're going about it. For us, I've always viewed NACE, and I think our membership as well, as we're bridge builders in the space. We're one of the few, ran by our member institutions, wholly owned by our member institutions. So our perspective on things is a bit different, but consolidation is coming in a big way. I think it's dramatically needed. We've seen new collegiate orgs pop up basically every month. That's done nothing but fracture the space, and some of those groups do it better than others too. So you're seeing a wide disparity in the quality and professionalism there. I think, and you saw this with our partnership now with NACE going public. But you're going to see a lot more of that, and very quickly now, where things are coming together. There's going to be a clear front runner in this space in terms of that has the most opportunities, the best quality opportunities for my students to have success in my institution, to achieve our own goals. I think that's clearly going to be NACE in the future, and it'll be obvious why I'm saying that in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, well, Michael Brooks, thank you so much for joining us, Executive Director of NACE. We look forward to talking to you again. Thank you so much, and we wish NACE all the luck, and we want to hear more from you in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.